Nowadays, athletic competitions seem to be everywhere. Since we are surrounded by sports, it's only natural to ask, where did sports come from and why are they important? The idea of playing athletic games probably dates back to the Stone Age. There used to be 17,000-year-old cave paintings in France that were thought to show people wrestling and racing. But even though the idea for sports came from the cavemen, sports themselves didn't really come into their own until the birth of ancient Greece. Let's listen to the beginning of a History Channel special about the Greek civilization.
Ancient Greece, the birthplace of Western civilization. For over 1,000 years, this strong and charismatic people devised the most advanced technological feats the world had ever seen.
So you have the appearance of a new generation of thinkers, and you have a reason to build things, to understand nature, to create technology.
Feats of engineering so amazing, the ancients believed they had been built by the gods.
Not only did the Greeks have great engineering, they also had great astronomy and science. They had fantastic sculpture and architecture. They had music. They had theater and literature. They had art. They made contributions to mathematics and medicine. They invented logic. They had philosophy and advanced schools. The Greek civilization was just far ahead of anybody else at that point in time. But sometimes when you have a lot of good things, you become the target of bullies who want to take those things away from you. If Greece was the target, Athens, her most famous city-state, was the bullseye. In this case, the bullies were the Persians. Why was Athens the bullseye? Well, the Persians talked different talk at different points in time about why they wanted to invade Greece. But if you compare the artwork from the two different civilizations, it becomes instantly apparent that the Greeks had all the best stuff and the Persians didn't like that. Why am I characterizing the Persians as bullies? It's because of the size of the two societies. Greece was just really small compared to the gigantic Persian Empire. So the Athenians knew that if they wanted to protect their way of life, they had to have some kind of a shield that they could put between themselves and the bad guys. They needed an army to be that shield. But where would the army come from? Where could Athens find guys to fight for her? In order to answer that question, we have to look at how Athens was governed. For much of her history, there was no king in Athens. Instead, there were a bunch of mini-kings. The mini-kings would get together and talk about what was happening. Then each individual mini-king would decide what should be done. After that, they would vote. That form of government was called democracy, and it is still with us today. The mini-kings themselves were called citizens. They were ordinary-looking guys, but they had to fulfill some special requirements. From time to time, the requirements for citizenship changed, but they always included the idea of a sound mind in a sound body. In order to develop the mind, the Greeks sent their kids to school for about 12 years. In order to develop the body, the Greeks took the caveman concept of playing games. They added rules and referees so that those games were formalized into sports. Then they collected the sports together into athletic competitions. The ancient Athenians wanted their kids to grow up going to school and playing sports. The last step on the road to citizenship was to spend 2 years in the military, which brings us back to the soldier that we saw before. Most likely, he was a pre-mini-king. Like every other soldier in the ancient world, he was fighting for his life, for his family, and for his country. But unlike any other soldier, he was also fighting for the right to have a say in his own destiny. He was fighting to be part of the government. The answer then to the question, where did sports come from, is that sports were developed by the ancient Greeks to train their kids to become good citizens. Please note, for that plan to work, it is not important who wins or loses any individual game. It is also not important whether the individual athlete is good or bad. What is important is that everybody gets a chance to play. Here in the United States, we have become so focused on winning that all too often only the best kids get good opportunities to play. The Greeks would not have liked that.